Hello all, welcome back. In this today's session, we'll see about the basics attacks and mitigation technique, right? So if we see that generally we used to provide the protection for the layer 3, nothing but the routers to our application layer, right? So common security solutions we used to provide using routers, firewalls, then IPS and virtual private VPN. So devices to protect the layer 3 up through the layer 7, right? So in real time we used to implement the secure solution for these things, but you assume that in some cases, right, if someone who come into your organization, right, inside of your organization, so if you're going to access your infrastructure, then what will be happen, right? So here the major agenda of this today's topic is that we are going to discuss about the layer 2 attacks and mitigation techniques, right? If you see that your data link layer is compromised, right, nothing but your layer 2 device is nothing but the switches are compromised, right? If you can able to gain the access in switches, then automatically layer 3 to layer 7 is the compromised, right? So whatever the security mechanism you implemented for protection, so all things can be accessed by the, right, so particular hacker, one who gain the access in the data link layer, right? It means that once initial compromise is done, then you cannot able to protect the remaining layer 3, layer 7 also, right? So the basic agenda of today's lecture is that we are going to discuss the what are the some different types of the common layer 2 attacks, nothing but the L2 switches attack, then how to overcome those attacks, right? So we are going to demonstrate practically, right? So the first topic is something we have the DHCP attack, then what do you mean by DHCP process, right? So how we can able to implement the DHCP operation, right? How DORA process can be done. Once it is done, we are going to perform practically how DHCP attacks are going to be performed. Then one more thing, what measure of action we need to take in order to overcome this type of attack, right? That is what we called as the mitigation techniques. Right after that, we are going to discuss MAC address flooding attack, then what is the mitigation solution, then telnet attacks, then VLAN attacks. So these things we are going to discuss in the today's lecture, right? So if you see that, first we'll see that what is the meaning of dynamic host configuration protocol, right? So if you read this, dynamic host configuration protocol is a client server protocol that automatically provides, right, so IP address to the end devices, right? So IP address to the end devices, right? End device is nothing but our laptop, PC, whatever it may be, host machines, right? So that also provide the IP address along with what is that corresponding router, subnet mask, default gateway, DNS server, everything will be given by the DHCP server, right? Now see that with DHCP the entire process is automated and managed centrally, right? It means that we are going to configure the DHCP server centrally. From that, whoever end device, nothing but the host machine required the IP address, they can access, right? So it means that DHCP server maintains the pool of IP address. Some series of IP address will be maintained by DHCP server, so that IP address will be assigned to the particular host machines, right? So using this, any DHCP enabled client system can get the dynamic IP address when it starts upon the networks, right? When your PC is turned on, so if it is searching for the automatically DHCP server, it can able to get the DHCP, right, a dynamic IP address from the DHCP server. So what is the benefit of DHCP means? It is to provide the reliable IP address configuration, right? Without manual intervention, we can give the automatic IP address, right? So first we will see the what is the basic operation of the DHCP process, then we will try to perform the what kind of attack we can able to perform, then how to mitigate those kind of attacks we will see, right? So if you see that, if you want to get the IP address, this is my client machine, this is my server machine. So if you want to get the IP address dynamic from the DHCP server, so there is a process involved in between client to server. That process we called as the DORA process, right? So what is the meaning of DORA process? Means D means discover, O means offer, then R means request, then A means acknowledgement. We'll see how the end devices will get the automatic IP address from the DHCP server, right? Initially, if you consider the first, right, at the first time, right, the client does not know where the DHCP server is located. right? If you consider in your network, you may have the multiple systems, right? So but that client does not know where the DHCP server is located, right? If you don't know, right, it means that if you don't know what is the point-to-point communication, then we used to use the broadcasting mechanism. Broadcasting mechanism means the packet will be forwarded all over the network. It means flooding will be done in the all over network. Why I am using here broadcast means because I don't know where my DHCP server is located, and I don't know what is the particular IP address of DHCP server, right? So here first step what we are going to do means client sending the hi, will you please give me an IP address, but it doesn't not know where this DHCP server located, so it is just broadcasting it information to the all other devices in the corresponding layer 2 network, right? Once it is done, somehow somewhere in the DHCP server received this request, so at this moment the server knows from where it is getting the corresponding request. So at this time it is something like point to point communication. So point to point communication means these devices, nothing but servers knows the where the IP address of this client. So now earlier it is performing the broadcasting operation, now it will perform the unicast operations, right? So it is requesting for what? IP address, right? Now in step 2 what is happening? The server, nothing but DHCP server is replying, I have this IP address, right? So for you I am sending this one, will you accept it, right? It means that it is going to send the unicast message to the particular client with the particular IP address. Now the moment if it is accept, it can reject, right? So if it is accept, then what will be happen means it send again the request message. Yes, I am accepting this request, so I need this corresponding IP address, so it will request from client side, the request will be sent to the DHCP server. Once request is sent from DHCP server, then what will be happen? The DHCP server will send the acknowledgement back. See that okay, this IP address I am going to assign to you and I am sending the acknowledgement back, right? So what is the process? Discover, done be broadcasting, then DHCP server will be offer IP address from the available pool of IP address. If you accept, then we need to request from the client so that it will give that particular IP address, then acknowledgement process will be done, right? So this is how if you want to get the IP address automatically from the DHCP server. This is DORA process is involving between the client to server operation, right? Now if you see that if you are, for example, this is my Cisco packet tracer simulator scenario for explaining the practical aspect. Now if you see that we have the something PC0, if you just click on this one, you will be getting something like this, right? So under the desktop mode, if you see that here we have the IP configuration, we can able to get the IP address in two ways. One is the static, nothing but the manual, we need to enter it, or if you click on DHCP, dynamically you will be getting the IP address from the DHCP server using the DORA process, right? So here in this case we are going to consider some scenario where we are going to implement the DHCP server so that we are getting the IP address mechanism automatically. So if you see this diagram, so this is my DHCP server. So here I have installed the DHCP server, right? Just I am clicking on this one, so that see that here we have the services. So what is our required services? DHCP, our required services. So what we are going to do is, by default if you observe, it will be in off position. So what we have to do is we need to make the services enable. Now we need to create the pool name. It may be any name, right? If you want to 100 pools, right, with 100 different IP address mechanism, we can create the 100 different pools, right? By default name it is showing that server pool. So for this demonstration purpose, I am considering only single server pool, so that I am not going to add the multiple pools. If you want to add the multiple pools, you just give the name, just to give the IP address, then subnet mask, then click on save, or if you want to create add new one, just click on add, so that automatically pool will be created, right? In my case, if you observe here, I have given starting IP address 192.168.1.10. so this is a subnet mask for class C network. Then here I have given maximum number of users. I don't require this TFTP server WLC address. So see that here I am not giving the default gateway DNS server, right? So in my case I am going to perform the operation only within the network L2 devices. So I am not going to use the routers DNS server. So for that I am not giving the default gateway as well as the DNS server. In case if you are required, use the default gateway as well as the DNS server, right? So once it is done, the moment I go back to this any one of the PC, if I click on any one of the PC, then what will be happen means the moment you click on DHCP, you will be getting the IP address automatically, right? Using DORA process, assignment of dynamic IP address will be done. See that? So what is the starting IP address we gave? 1.10. So here we are getting the 1.10 automatically by using the DORA process, right? Now we will see that what is the meaning of DHCP attacks. So once it is done, then we will implement the practical scenario by using the packet tracer simulator 2. There I will explain so how to download or install the packet tracer, right? So packet tracer is a great tool. Those who are working for like CCNA, CCNP, CCA exam, those who are teaching the computer networks, if they want to teach in practical aspect, so this tool will help us to providing the right, so in better way that teaching the concept, right? This will be helpful. We'll see that how to install, where to get the corresponding packet tracer simulator, which is going to offer by the Cisco Networking Academy, right? So once we have completed the DHCP operation, now we will see that what is the possible DHCP attacks, right? So there are two possible attacks. One is called as the DHCP spoofing attack. Another one is the DHCP starvation attacks. So we'll see what is the difference between these two things. Then we will perform the attack. Then finally we will see how to eradicate or mitigate this particular attack, right? Now see that DHCP spoofing means an attacker configure a fake DHCP server on the network to issue the IP address to the client. So what is the meaning of this one is, suppose for example, if you consider this one, this is my client mission, right? So this is the rogue DHCP server, nothing but the hacker DHCP server. So this is my original DHCP server. So actually I need to get the IP address from this DHCP server through my client mission, so that my operation will be performed successfully. Otherwise, if you get the IP address from this rogue DHCP server, then will be happen, some denial of service will be happen. So we will see, consider by one example. So for this, what I am going to do is, for example, here we have the switch, right? So we have the switch, then we have some PCs. Let it be this IP address is something 192.168.1.1. So after switch, we will be having the router. In the router interface, we are giving some IP address. Let it be 192.168.1.100 something we are giving. So it means that if communication is done within the L2 network, if it is not, then it will pass through this interface, so that we will be getting the through internet. Now see that what is happening. Let it be this attacker series is something 200.1.1.0 series, something you consider like this. Now what will be happen means, if you get this IP address from this series 192.168, just to try to analyze in this way that the user can connect it to the internet, because it will go through your router interface through ISP, then you will be getting the internet. Suppose if you think that instead of giving this 200 series, if you are user this getting the 200 IP series, now what will be happen? So the moment it is assigned to the 200 IP series, it will go to the switch, then it will not forward it to the router, because in the router interface, the gateway we have given only 192.168.1.100, so that this user cannot able to connect to the internet. So this is what we called as the denial of service, right? So the ultimate view of the rogue DHCP server is that he is going to provide some fake IP address, which is not going to accepted, right? Which is not going you to, right? So get the information from the internet, right? So this is one kind of the DHCP spoofing attack. Then another one attack is the DHCP starvation attacks. What do you mean by this one? As we know that in DORA process we are getting the IP address, right? So the moment if you are requesting for the IP address, the DHCP server will send the corresponding IP address, right? Now what attacker will do is, he will send the request for the multiple IP address. Now what DHCP server will do is, he is acquiring for the IP address, so it is sending the multiple IP address to this only single machine, so that what will be happen, the pool will be completed, so it cannot able to assign further IP address to the any new device which is coming into the network. So this is also one kind of the denial of service attack, right? Now this will be happen. So if you observe this one, you can understand. So first what is happening, in the first, client sends the DHCP discovery message through the broadcasting, because he is required this is my client mission, the client mission is required the IP address, so it is sending the DORA process. So first step is discover, so this will be broadcasted all over the network. It means that it will reach to the DHCP server as well as the rogue DHCP server. So if you see that in both the rogue DHCP server as well as the legitimate DHCP server is offering the IP address, In next step, what is happening? If it is getting the IP address from the legitimate DHCP server, that is fine, good. But if it is getting the DHCP server, DHCP IP from the rogue DHCP server, then what will be happen? So he cannot able to connect it to the internet. It means that he is going to provide some fake IP address which is not required, which will not be useful to communicate with the internet. Just for example, you consider in this scenario, so that you will be getting the denial of service, right? So this is what we can see in the DHCP attack, right? So how to mitigate this attack? This is the important. So how to mitigate this attack means by implementing the DHCP snooping, right? We can able to mitigate this attack. So what do you mean by this one is, suppose this is my DHCP client, right? So where we are getting the IP address? From DHCP server, the hacker who connected through your any switch of the interface. So he is also providing the some random fake IP address, right, for performing the denial of service operation for this client, right? Now see that here we are making the trusted port as well as the untrusted port. So what is the meaning of trusted port? Means if you configure, this is one interface, this is interface, right? So if you configure this interface as the trust port, again what is the one more possibility? This way it will come, right? This is the trusted port. This is a one more possibility in this way, trusted way. This is one more possible way, trusted port, right? If you make this trust means that particular interface, if you are getting the automatic IP address, so that is allowed to DHCP client. So if you want this, if here we have the port, right? If you make this as the untrusted port, then what will be happen? If you, even though if you are trying to give the fake DHCP IP address, because this is not the trusted port we configure, so that this IP address will not accepted by the DHCP client, right? So what is the mitigation techniques, right? So we are going to configure the DHCP snooping. So we are making the which port is trusted port, which is not untrusted port, so that IP address will be taking only from the trusted interface rather than the untrusted port, right? So now what we will do is we'll take the packet tracer simulator scenario, so that we will perform the basic DHCP attack, right? So for this demonstration, I required the Cisco Packet Tracer Simulator, which is offered by the Cisco Networking Academy, right? Then we required some end devices, and then we required server for the configuration of the DHCP server, right? For example, see how to download. First we will see that how to download the packet tracer simulator, then we will see, right, how to implement this attack, right? See if how to download this one means, if anybody having the NetAcad Academy, see if we type this NetAcad login, right? I think almost all engineering colleges as a part of the NetAcad Academy, either through maybe Cisco or maybe Task, right? So you I think most of the colleges will be having this one. So just click on Cisco Networking Academy, just log in, so that you will be getting the packet tracer, right? So in my case it is already login because I have the Cisco NetAcad Networking Academy. So if you just click on the resources, right, you will find download packet tracer. Now we said that you can find out the packet tracer, right? If it is Windows machine, it is Ubuntu, Mac OS, we can download it. Just I think it is something around 200 MB file size, right? So it will come with the minimum RAM, right? So you can download, you can practice, right? You can practice all CCNA, CCNP, CCI exams, right? So you can implement by using this Cisco Packet Tracer simulator tool. Remember that there is not emulator, this is only simulator tool, right? So in my case, I'm going to open the Cisco Packet Tracer. So interface will be look like this, right? So here we are going to implement our network scenario, right? So for that, I told that we require switch, right? Just I'm taking the switch, right? Some end devices I'm going to consider, right? So again I'm going to configure the server, right? So for that I require some server, so just I'm taking the server. So once it is done, let me give the connection quickly. So I'm connecting from PC1 to the switch, then PC3 to the switch, then again I'm going to connect this server, right? Now the moment if you click on this one, so let me maximize this one, right? So if you click on this PC0, right, so here we have the desktop. So in the desktop, if you observe here, right? We have the IP configuration, right? Just click on IP configuration. So here we have the two things, one is static, another one is the DHCP. The moment if you click on DHCP, you will be not getting any dynamic IP address through the DORA process. The reason is that we don't have any DHCP server configured. Now what we will do is, first we will create the DHCP server, then we will come back to here, right? So for that I'm just clicking on my DHCP server, right? So just click on desktop. Once it is done, first for DHCP server also we required IP address, right? So for that what we will do is, we will give the IP configuration. First we will give the static IP address. So let it be something 192.168.1.1, right? So in my case I don't require default gateway DNS server because I'm working on the layer 2 only, right? So I'm giving some IP address, right? So next go to programming, right? Click on desktop. So we are giving the IP address, right? So now we'll implement the install the DHCP server, right? So for that just click on the services, right? What services we required is DHCP. If you observe, by default it is in off position. You just click on service is on. Now here we need to create the pool. Let it be default name server pool. I don't require default gateway DNS server. Let it be, I am going to give IP address from 1.10 something. Now this is a subnet mask, so let it be maximum user allowed. It may be any number, 244 something. Now what we have to do is, after doing this modification, right, just click on save. Now see that what is the starting IP address, 1.10, right? See that here we will be getting 1.10 along with the subnet mask, then maximum users, everything we are getting here. Once it is done, DHCP server is enabled, right? Now we'll switch back to our PC, right? Now we'll click on the DHCP. See, the DORA process is going to be done. Once DORA process is successfully completed, we are getting the IP address from 1.10. Why 1.10? First IP address is start from 1.10, right? So that we are getting the free available IP address 1.10, right? So this is how we are going to get the automatic IP address. Now what we will do is, we will consider the one more machine, right? So we'll consider this as the rogue DHCP server. Let me quickly give you some name, right? So let it be this series something 10.1.1.0 network, something we'll give like this. So what is this network? 192.168.1.0. let us you assume that if we can able to assign this IP address to the system so that it may be connected to the internet. Suppose if you get, instead of this IP series, if you are getting this IP series, then you will just consider that you will be not getting connection through the internet, so that it is kind of denial of service, right? So for that, let me give the connection quickly. Connection has given. Now we'll configure DHCP, right? Just click on this one. First we need to assign the IP address. IP configuration, let it be 10.1.1 something we are giving, right? Once it is done, click on services, then DHCP. So by default it will be off position. Click on. So here we will be, what is IP address we gave? 10.1 series, right? 10.1.1.10 something we will give, right? Subnet mask by default class A will be this one. If you are using CIDR, that is different, right? So just click on save, right? Once it is done, and now what is the IP address we have given, right? 1.1.1, right? So what is the services we have given under DHCP? 10.1.1. from 10 it is going to start, right? Now let's just click on the PC0. Earlier we got the DHCP from 1.10, right? Now just click on the static, then again click on the DHCP, requesting for IP address. See that now, see, earlier I discussed the DORA process. That time the PC0 sends the discovery, then this is also going to be offer, legitimate server is going to offer, as well as the rogue DHCP server also going to offer, right? But whose comes the search first, that will be given to this one, right? So it means that instead of getting the legitimate DHCP server, we are getting the IP address from the rogue DHCP server, right? It means that you just try to analyze in terms of, if you are having this IP address which cannot able to communicate through the internet, it means that we have the denial of services to the particular internet service, right? So this is what attacker will do, right? In second case, what attacker will do is, means he will request the all the IP addresses from the DHCP server, so that whenever the new system comes for IP address, then DHCP server does not have any free IP address to provide, right? That is what we call as the DHCP starvation attack, right? Now what we have to do, how to get the IP address only from the trusted DHCP server, not from the rogue DHCP server, right? So for that, what we have explained is we explained the, right, so DHCP snooping concept, right? By using the DHCP snooping concept, by making some port as the trusted port, some port as the untrusted port, we can get the, right, we can escape from the getting the DHCP IP address from the unauthorized or rogue DHCP server. Now if you see that, in case, what is this interface number, FA0/5? So what is this rogue DHCP interface, FA0/6, right? So now what I'm going to do is, from where we need to get FA0/5 interface should be trusted port, right? So FA0/6 should be untrusted port, right? So just what we are going to do is, see, in this case I'm going to consider the simple network scenario, right? If you have the multiple switches, then what you have to do means, we need to configure the multiple interfaces as the trusted port, so that only you will be getting the DHCP from the trusted server, right? So in my case, I have only single port, right, for DHCP server. Here also only single port. So so I'm going to configure the DHCP snooping operation. Now just if you understand this one, this is interface FA0/5, which is connected to the legitimate server, then FA0/6, which is connected to the rogue DHCP server. I'm going to make FA0/5 as the trusted port, so that whenever my end devices is requesting the IP address, then it will directly go to this server. It will not accept the request from the rogue DHCP server, right? So for that, what you have to do is, first we will open the switch, right? So open the switch, then we will open the command line interface, right? CLI, right? So it is booting, we will wait for some time. So first what you have to do is, first enable it, right? So now we are in the privilege executive mode. So just I'm going to configuration mode. So for that, what is the command we need to use? The configure terminal, right? So if you type the command configure terminal, you will be going to the configuration mode. Here whatever the configuration you want to perform, you can perform, right? So in configuration mode, what I'm going to do, I'm going to enabling IP DHCP snooping, right? So just I'm enabling the IP DHCP snooping operation, right? So if you want to see that whether DHCP snooping is enabled or not, so just type the command show IP DHCP snooping, right? If you see that here in this interface, no interface is the trusted, and we didn't set any rate limit, right? So nothing is configured so far, right? Now what we are going to do is, we are going to configure which port is trusted to get the authorized DHCP IP address, right? So again I'm going to the configure terminal mode, right? Now I am under the configuration mode. So first what I'm going to do, in which port we are going to perform the trusted port, interface FA0/5, right? So what is that interface? Interface FA0/5, right? So what we have to do is, we need to make this port as the, right, so DHCP trust, right? So IP we need to type this command, IP DHCP snooping trust, right? So this command we are going to type, IP DHCP snooping trust. For example, the one more beauty of the packet tracer is that, suppose you know that command is IP something DHCP snooping. If you don't know what is the next to be entered, then you just use the shift question mark. I repeat, use the shift question mark in your keyboard, so that it will going to see. So either you can enter the limit command, or you can enter the trust command, right? So suppose if you want to get the trust command, then one more shortcut is that you don't need to type the entire command. Just type the command TR, then press tab button on your keyboard, so that it will automatically fill the entire key, right? So trust is completed, right? Now just click on exit. We will go to privilege executive mode. Again we type the command show IP DHCP snooping, right? If you see that, what is the interface we have trusted port, FA0/5 is the trusted port, right? Once it is done, now what we will do is, we will again come back to our PC. Again we will get the IP address from the DHCP server. Just I'm click on my PC 0, right? So IP configuration, right? So let it be static. Now we'll convert in terms of the DHCP. Now where we are getting the IP address? From trusted port, right? So again we'll try one more time, right? See, again we are getting the IP address from only trusted port. Again we are getting the IP address from the trusted port, right? So by using packet tracer scenario, we have implemented DHCP server configuration, right? Then how to get the IP address from broke DHCP server, so how to mitigate the attack, then we have performed, right? Now this is completed. Next we will move to the next topic. So next topic is nothing but what we have explained is MAC address flooding attack, right? So MAC address flooding attack means if you study this one, it is type of the network attack where an attacker connects to a switch port, floods the switch interface with very large number of the Ethernet frame with different fake source MAC addresses, right? So it is typically MAC flooding attack. A switch is fed many Ethernet frames, each containing different source MAC address. It means that from the same attacker machine we are going to generate the different source MAC address. All the MAC address will be stored in the switch so that capability of the switch will be overloaded, so switch functionality will be work anymore, right? So it means that the hacker can get the sensitive information in the L2 network, right? So the intention is to consume the limited memory set aside in the switch to store the MAC address table, right? It means that, right, so limited memory we are going to occupy by providing some random source MAC address from the hacker machine, right? So after launching the successful MAC flooding attack, a malicious user, nothing but hacker, can use a packet analyzer, right? We have the different packet analyzer software. So by using this, we can capture the sensitive data being transmitted between other computers, right, which would be accessible where the switch is operating normally, right? Because the moment when switch over CAM table is overloaded, then it is no more switch, right? It will not work as the dynamically. So that what will be happen, we can get the sensitive information, right, in the other computer also by having some packet analyzer tool. Wireshark is one of the great packet analyzer tool. We'll see that while we are implementing the practical scenario, right? If you see that how switch will be right, switch will be holding the MAC address means, in my case if you observe here we have the PC1, PCA, PCB, PCC, one more is PCD. Suppose for example you consider that the moment if you want to communicate from, right, remember that L2 is, right, work data link layer work based on the MAC address mechanism, right? So here I am not going to discuss what is the ARP process, reverse ARP process, I am not going to discuss. So just remember that switches works based on the MAC address mechanism. Right, now if you observe this, the moment when PCA is going to be communicate with the PCB, right, initially switch is not a intelligent device, right? So how switch will become intelligent device means, the moment you send the information from PCA to the switch does not know where is the IP address of the PCB. Now what switch will do is, it will broadcast the information to PCC as well as PCB as well as PCD, right? So now this packet is intended to only for PCB, so that this will drop the packet because it is not intended for this one. Here also it will drop the packet, only this will give the reply to the corresponding PCA. Now what will be happen, the moment the communication process is being established from PCA PCB, right? So at this time switch 1 will store the MAC address of the, right, PCA machine as well as the MAC address of the PCB machine. The next time when you are going to communicate from PCA to PCB, right, the packet will come to here. Now switch will not perform the broadcasting operation. Broadcasting operation means it will not send packet to here, packet to here. It will directly send packet to the PCB because switch learns the MAC address of this one as well as this one. When packet is need to be sent from PCA to PCB, directly packet will transfer to this one, like point to point communication, right? So this is how switch will learn the MAC address of the each interface. FA0 by 1, what is the MAC address of PCA? You can see that. FA0 by 2 interface, what is the MAC address of this one? So like this. So in Cisco packet tracer, if you want to find out right? So MAC address table, just use this command, show MAC address table mechanism, right? Show MAC address table, so that you can see that which interface related to the which MAC address, right? Now here, what is the problem? What is the meaning of MAC address table flooding attack means, right? So see that we have one tool, right, be using this command, right? So for this demonstration we are going to use the Kali Linux, right? So there I will show you how we are going to generate the random source MAC address that we are going to inject on the switch, so that switch can be overloaded. So after that we can able to access the sensitive information in the network, right? So see that if you read this one, MAC of can flood a switch with up to 8000 bogus, right, bogus frames per second, so creating a CAM table overflow attack in a matter of few seconds, right? So attacker is going to generate the random MAC address. Let if you see that by using this one we can generate the 8000 bogus frames per second, so that your switch will be within seconds, it will be overloaded, then it will not work as a switch, so that you can hack the entire information. You can steal the sensitive information using the packet analyzer software, right? Nothing but we can use the Wireshark most probably, right? Now if you see this scenario, right, so this is my, see, each device will be having the unique IP address, right, unique MAC address, right? So for port 2 it will give some one MAC address, port 1 from this host A we will be getting the another MAC address, that is okay. But here in host C we need to get only single MAC address. But what the attacker is doing using this tool, he is going to generate the multiple MAC address. That MAC address we are inject on the switch. Now what is happening, he is sending some MAC address to switch, right? So it is going to stored in the switch MAC address table. Again he is going to send the one more Y, so it is going to store in the table. So like this he is going to, right, so inject the multiple MAC address, so that switch will be overloaded. So that is what we called as the MAC address table flooding attack, right? So how to overcome this attack means we need to implement something called as the port security operation to mitigate this attack. Why port security operation means, the moment if you see this, if port 3 is there, right, if you see that in this port 30 only this MAC address is allowed, something CC is allowed, then if this guy is sending some different MAC address, then this port will not be accepted. If this port is not accepting that MAC address, then what will be happen, the switch will not take the multiple MAC address, so switch will not be overloaded. So it means that we cannot able to perform the MAC address table flooding attack, right? So before going to see the MAC address table flooding attack, first we will try to learn the port security, then we will come back to the MAC address flooding attack, right? Right. So if you see that, if you understand the MAC address flooding attacks, then we'll back to here port security concept. So see that as we know that switch learn the MAC addresses when the frame is forwarded through a switch port, right? The moment is forwarding the packet, then switch will learn the MAC address of this particular device, right? By using port security, user can limit the number of MAC addresses. It means that if you are here, what is the port number, FA0/1, right? So here we are writing the command, you accept only one IP address, sorry, one MAC address in this interface. Then what will be happen, whenever comes with this MAC address only, the packet will be forwarded either here or either here. If other than this MAC address, if someone comes to here, then you do not forward the packet here. It means that we cannot able to perform the MAC flooding attack, right? So see that user can limit the number of MAC address that can be lent to a port, set static MAC address and set penalties for that port if it is used by unauthorized user. If unauthorized user is going to coming through this port, right, so either we can perform the, as per the port security concept, we can perform the protection operation, restriction operation, shutdown operation. So what is the meaning of this one is, right, somehow this cable is, right, connected to the some hacker guy. So this is my office, right? So somehow I went from my office, though this Ethernet cable is free now. So somehow you access this cable, right? Now what is the MAC address of this one? Let it be AA. So here we have implement the port security through FA0/1 interface. Whoever comes with the AA MAC address, then only you perform the, you just perform the, right, so packet forwarding operation. So now see that this mission will be having the different MAC address, right? So something XX, right? So the moment if this interface, if MAC address is going XX, then what we are going to do is we are not going to allow the or forwarding the traffic to the switches, right? So this is what we are going to do. So then what are the actions we are going to take is, we are going to take protection operation as well as the restriction operation. One more is the shutdown operation, right? We will see practically prot security. Once it is completed, we will implement the right MAC address flooding attack, right? So for this scenario, so I am going to consider the right, so GNS3 network simulator. So first we will complete the port security operation, then we will implement the right GNS3 using, we are going to perform the MAC flooding attack. For port security implementation, let me go back to the packet tracer. Just click on file. So I'm going to consider new one. I don't want to change it is right. So let me consider one switch. Let me take PC, right? So let me take one more PC. Then we'll consider the switch, right? So 2960 switch I'm going to consider. So just I'm going to connecting this interface, right? Fast Ethernet 0. Just I'm giving FA0/5. These are the available ports, right? Now let it be, we'll consider something like this. This is attacker mission, right? So hacker or attacker, whatever it may be. Now see that what we will do is, right? So we'll click on the switch, right? I'm going to click on the switch, right? Go to CLI. Just type this command, enable show MAC address table. Nothing is there, right? So you can see that nothing is learned by the switch. Now what we are going to do is, right, if you want to see that how packet is being transmitted in real time also, you can see. For example, suppose say I'm going to click on simulation mode. If you see here simulation, so for this demonstration we'll consider one more thing, right? So let me connect to this one. Just a second. I'm going to connect this one. So once it is done, first we'll try to give the IP addresses. Click on PC0, click on desktop. Let it be, I'm going to give 192.168. Something 1.1. It can be any IP address. 1.1 is done. Here I'll give something 192.168.1.2. For hacker mission we will give something 192.168.1.3, right? So earlier we used to run the MAC address table command. We are not getting the MAC address, right? So now we'll get the MAC address, right? Which is intelligent device. The moment communication is done from one PC to the another PC, we can get the MAC address table automatically, right? Because which is the intelligent device, right? So if you want to see that how packet is being transmitted, so by default it will mean real time mode. Just you click on the simulation mode, all right? So here we have two things. If you observe here, right? If you observe here we have the two things. One is IPv4, another one is the IPv6. In my case, I'm going to consider IPv4 packet. Click on add simple PDU. This is my source. This is my destination, right? If you see that, you can see that how packet is being transmitted. Everything we can see that. Here we can see the event list also, right? That is the beauty of the packet tracer simulator tool, right? You can see, you can analyze all the protocols, right? So almost everything we can implement using the packet tracer, right? Now see that here, if you observe there, here we have the two packets, right? One is ICMP for reply, another one is for the address resolution protocols, right? To map the IP to MAC address table, something like this, right? So just click on the next. Now see that it is forwarded. The first time it will perform the broadcasting. Broadcasting means here we have only single device, right? So once it is done, we are getting the reply back, right? Here we can see the events, what is happening, right? So just click on again. Now it is reached, right? So after some time you can see that here, see that you can see that it is successful, right? Now what we will do is, we'll again go back to the real time mode. Now just click on the switch 0, right? So now we'll see that again we will type the same command, show MAC address table. Now see that it is learns dynamically the particular MAC address, right? So see, what is this interface? FA0/5, right? So what is the MAC address of this PC? This is the MAC address of this PC, right? So what is the another interface? FA0/1. What is the MAC address of the second PC? This is the MAC address, right? Now here we have only two MAC address, but if this is the attacker mission, If he is going to flood the n number of packets, then what will be happen? The switch will be overloaded, so that you can able to hack the information, right? So for that, what I will do means, here the idea is something like this, right? So what is this MAC address? Something 2343, right? The MAC address is 2343, right? So whenever who comes through this interface 2343, then only you allowed or forward the packet. If other than this guy, anyone comes here, then if somehow he accesses this cable, right? So if this MAC address other than 2434, if something is 3453, if he is coming here, he just don't forward the packet, right? So that is what we call as the port security operation. If we can able to implement the port security, we can mitigate the MAC flooding attack, right? Now see that, right? So for that I am going to copy this MAC address FA0/5. So let me clear MAC address table. I don't require, right? So for that what I am going to do is I am going to configuration mode. For that we need to use the config terminal. What is that interface? Interface FA0/5, right? So in this port we are going to configure the switch port, right? Switch port mode, we need to issue these commands. So one is switch port mode access, then we need to implement the port security operation, right? So for that what the command we need to issue is switch port security. Once it is done, now port security is enabled, right? Now what we are going to do is again switch port security. We'll see that how many maximum. It means that, so after enabling the port security, we need to issue the three things, right? How many MAC addresses allowed? Either only this one, sorry, just a second, something like this. Either only this MAC address, or we need to assign the multiple MAC address. How many count we need to give? Either you are allowing 2 MAC address, 20 MAC address, 200 MAC address, or single MAC address, that we need to assign. Once it is done, if you are allowing the single MAC address, for example, that MAC address we need to attach here, right? So once it is done, if other than this MAC address comes to the picture, then what is the action we are going to take? We have the three things, right? One is protection, another one is the shutdown mode, another one is the violation mode. These three things we have to implement, right? So maximum here I am giving only one, right? So switch port security, right? So what is the MAC address we are going to give? This one, right? So FA0/5, this MAC address, right? So this is we are giving the authenticated. So here we have the two things. One thing is we can use the sticky means it will, in this FA0/5 interface, it will automatically take this IP address, right? So if you don't wish to give sticky command means you can copy paste that MAC address, right? So earlier I have copied this MAC address, right? This is the MAC address of this FA0/5 interface 2343, right? So once it is done, now what we have to do is, if other than this MAC address, if someone is going to access, now what we have to do, switch port security, then we have to apply the violation. So in this violation we have the two things. One is protection mode, another one is restriction mode, another one is the shutdown mode. By default behavior is the shutdown mode, right? So let me use any one method. I am using the shutdown mode, right? So this we have configured. Now what we are going to do is, just we will see the show port security command. Now see that what is the port security? An FA0/5 interface, we have issued the port security, right? So if more than one MAC address comes, right, now violation count is 0. Once it reaches to the 1, automatically it is going to perform the shutdown operation, right? Now we'll see that, right? Now I'm going to take this cable out. I'm going to connect to this hacker machine. Just I'm going to do this, right? Now see that after some period of time what happened. So see that this is turned into the, right, this is in disabled state, right? Suppose if you still have the doubt, now what we'll do is just click on command prompt. So what is the IP address of any other device? This one, 192.168.1.2, right? This is why 1.2 mission, right? Now see that what is happening. Pinging is not done. Request is timeout. Again if you see also request will be timeout. Again if you see request also will be timeout. See that request is going to be timeout. Reason is that the port is shut down. See, other than this MAC address, if multiple MAC address if you are trying to inject also, you can't do anything, right? Now here, so port security concepts is completed. Now what we will do is, right, so we will implement the, right, MAC flooding attack, then we will see the how to implement the port security concept, right. So this is the tool I'm going to consider for this demonstration. So tools required is GNS3 network simulator, then one more Kali Linux operating system required to generate the random MAC address. So this is my Kali Linux machine. Then some VPCs are required, then Cisco switch is required to perform the MAC flooding attack. So if you see that GNS3 is the graphical network simulator, it's a free emulator, right. So simulator means whatever the functionality they have provided by the Cisco NetAcad Academy, only those functionality can be implemented, right. If you want to perform something, the people who are working in the cyber security related operations, if you want to perform some hacking kind of mechanism, we require some ettercap is required, right, some tools are required, right. So by default we will be getting all those things in the Kali Linux, right. But in case of packet tracer simulator, we don't have this Kali Linux machine, so that we cannot able to install the hacking tools, so that we cannot able to perform the hacking operations, right. So for that, one more alternative solution or tool is the graphical network simulator. So if you just think in that term, so here whatever the device either we are using L2, L3, whatever it may be, so those are the real devices. It means that this is L2 devices which, right, it is not the simple simulator, right. This is nothing but the iOS images which we are downloading from the Cisco site, right. If you have the official account, so our internet also we can download this. We are going to keep in the GNS3 so that it is work like real-time iOS, real-time switch operating system of this Cisco. The same functionality it will be work, right. So it doesn't mean that it is not something like a normal PC, it is Kali Linux. So what is the meaning of Kali Linux is to perform this GNS3 operation. If you observe, I have installed the, let me open quickly, right. So this is my VMware workstation. Under that I have installed the GNS3 virtual machine. So for to perform the hacking kind of things, I have installed the Kali Linux machine, right. So it means that we are going to perform the real type of hacking attack by using this tool. So it is not the simulator, it is the emulator. It works exactly based on how your real switches, real routers, real Kali Linux machine work. The same way it will work, right. Because if you want to perform the MAC flooding attack, we need to generate the random MAC address. So if you want to generate the random MAC address, we required the tool by default, which is not providing by the Cisco packet tracer, right. So if you want to download it, just you type GNS download for Windows, right. So if you see, you will be getting the software. See, for Windows we can download, for Mac, Linux you can download, right. So download the GNS3 VM. So here I have shown, right. So this IK is downloaded, right. So directly you can install the, it is open source, right. You don't require any account, any kind of, just a free account. So you just click on sign in so that you can able to download the, either for Windows, Mac or Linux. So just you download the GNS3 VM, right. So VMware workstation or VMware or hypervisor or VirtualBox, right. So in my case I am using the VMware workstation. So if you require VirtualBox, you use this one, right. Once it is done, in my case it is installed. So let me quickly perform the MAC address flooding attack. I'm just opening my GNS3 tool. This is my networking scenario. First let me explain this one. This is my L2 switch. So for example, I'm going to give this IP address as the 1.2, this 1.3. This is my Kali Linux machine. I'm going to give the 1.1, right. So here I'm going to perform the MAC flooding attack, right. So then I'm going to avoid by using of the port security concept, right. First I'm going to run this all the components. Now if you observe, this is the Kali Linux machine, right. Now see what is happening. See, automatically this Kali Linux from the VMware workstation, it is going to boot up. It means that we are working with the real-time devices, right. That is the beauty of the GNS3. After some period of the time, you will be finding that Kali Linux machine will be started. See that I am going to perform the live boot operation. It means that it is going to install the Linux operating system for us. Let me minimize this one, it will take some time. Now what we'll do is just click on PC1, right. Click on this one, just click on console. So the terminal will be open. So like this terminal will be open, right? The same way we are going to click on PC2, click on console, right? PCT terminal also open, then click on L2 devices, console. See, my switch is going to be booting. It will take some time. Once it is done, the booting operation will be performed, so that we can use this switch as the real Cisco switch, right? So it will take some time. We'll wait for that. Here we don't need to open. The moment you click on the start, so automatically it is going to run the Kali Linux operating system. Fine, it will take some time. We will wait for that. Now meanwhile I'll give the IP address for the virtual PCs. So just open this one. So let me minimize this, something like this. Fine, let me open this terminal. Right, this is my PC one, right? I just click on show IP. Is there an IP address assigned? Nothing is assigned, right? So let me give 192.168.1.1. So for that, just type the command 192.168.1.2. If you want to give the subnet mask, you give the subnet mask. In my case, I'm giving the class A IP address. First it is checking for the duplicates. Once it is done, just again you type the command show IP. Now see that 1.2 is assigned, right? Again go back to the PC2, right? So just type the command show IP. Nothing is assigned, right? So just use a command IP 192.168.1.3, right? Right, if you want to see, just type the command show IP. So this is given. So suppose if you want to see the connection from 1.3 to 1.2, just issue the command show, right? The command we use is ping 192.168. What is the destination IP address, right? In my case destination is 1.2, right? Why pinging is not happening? We'll check that, right? I think my switch is not yet booted, right? So it is taking some time. Fine, now we are getting the reply, right? It means that our switch is loaded, right? So switch is loaded, right? Fine. Now what we'll do is, right? Fine, this is my switch configuration, right? So first let me see that. Enable show MAC address table, right? If you see that, see automatically it learns the MAC address from this interface, right? So G0 by 0 Kali Linux MAC address. Again one more interface. I'll show why two interfaces means in Kali Linux we have the one is Ethernet 0, another one is my regular machine, right? So G0 by 1 we have, G0 by 2 we have the MAC address, right? If it is 4 devices, 4 it is okay. But if you are performing the MAC flooding attacks, how this table will be overload we are going to see, right? Now this is also ready, configuration is done. Now we will configuration on the Kali Linux machine. What is the IP address we are trying to give? 192.168.1.1, right? Now let me open my Kali Linux machine, right? So first we'll give the IP address. Just click on here, go to settings. Again scroll down, click on network, click on settings, wide connection, right? We'll give the IP before address manually. We'll give 192.168.1.1. See, to perform this GNS3, minimum RAM size is required, 8 GB is required, recommended, right? So if you are not assigning this much RAM size, then it will stuck. Remember that one also, right? So just apply. Done. Once it is done, just I'm going to open the command prompt terminal. Just I'm open this one. Right, we'll check what is IP address is assigned using ifconfigure. See that this is my real Kali Linux machine, right, which I imported in the GNS3, right? This image I imported in the GNS3 workspace, right? Once it is done, next let me go back to the Kali Linux machine. Right, so if you want to establish the connection 192 dot any PC IP address, see we have the connection, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate the multiple MAC address, right? If you see this one switch interface, right, so MAC address table, we have only this MAC address, right, MAC IDs, right? Now see that what will be happen, right? So here I am using the MAC of, right? What is the interface? If you observe here, what is its interface? E0, right? So in interface I'm going to generate the, right, so random MAC address, right? Right, fine. So MAC of fine. This is Ethernet 0, right? This port is something like, I'll show you. Wait, give me a second. This interface, right? Ethernet 0, right? We'll give here interface Ethernet 0. Now see that as we told that 8000 MAC address will be generated by using this tool, right? So see that these many fake MAC address, source MAC address are being generated. Now if you observe here, right, this is my L2 switch, right? Just again you type the show MAC address table, right? So earlier how many MAC address we have? 3, right? Now see that what is happening. Just click enter. Now see that we are getting from G0 by 0 interface, how many MAC address we are getting? We are getting the different MAC. After some period of time, what will be happen means the switch will not function as a switch, so that the hacker can gain the sensitive information here, right? The moment you keep on enter, so the MAC address are being injected in this interface. See, now how do we stop this MAC address flooding attacks? Means by implementing the port security concept, right? So let me open this because I don't have 8 GB RAM, so it is taking too much time, right, for loading. See what is happening here. It is again getting right. So because here my Kali Linux machine is running, right, it is generating, keep on generating. Let me close this by click on Control C. Right, here also I'll click Control C, escape. Now if we issue the command show port security, now see that nothing is configured, right? So what is this interface? G0 by 0, we are need to perform the port security, right, as we discussed in the packet tracer, right? So this is interface G0 by 0, right? Switch port, mode, access, switch port, port security. If it is not working, we'll give host, right, switch port, port security. So it means port security is enabled. Now switch port security, maximum count we will give any, in my case only 1. Ante what is the meaning of this one? Through this G0 by interface I need to get only 1 MAC address. Switch port security, what is that MAC address? We can give this time sticky means automatically it will take only 1 MAC address, right? Sticky switch port security, what is the violation mode? If other than that MAC address accept, will perform shutdown operation, right? So exit. Now see the command show port security, and which interface we have enabled? G0 by 0. What is the maximum MAC address we have given? Only 1. No violation has done so far. If violation is done, what will be happen? This automatically disable, so that switch will not be overloaded, right? So again we will go back to, first we will type this one, show MAC address table. This many is there, right? So after performing this port security concept, now see what will be happen, right? So again go back to the Kali Linux machine, right? Just type the same command on Ethernet interface. See, these many MAC addresses are being generated. Now we'll go back to the switch, right? This one switch, right? Now we'll type the command show MAC address table. See that only one MAC address we are getting. Even though if we are generating the thousands of MAC address, we cannot able to perform the MAC flooding attack, right? So this is how we are going to escape from the MAC flooding attack, right? So let me close this. I don't require it. All right, let me power off. Fine. So now we'll go back to the next topic. So this is what we have done, right? First initially we have done, and flooding is done. So these are the tools we have used. So now we'll discuss the telnet attack and mitigation technique, right? So for example, I'm working from the home, right? I have work from home, right? So I'm an administrator. So generally I used to go inside of the office to perform the right. Let me a second. Right, so I'm administrator. So directly in generally what we used to do is I will access this switch so that I can make the configuration. Now thing is that you assume that you are in work from home, you are in somewhere. As administrator you cannot go to the office. So what you are going to do is you are going to gain the remote access, right? So you are going to access this switch remotely so that we are going to make the configuration. Instead of from here we are going to access from the my home PC to perform the configuration operation on the switch, right? So for remote action we require the two things, right? So one, we need to provide the authentication, right? By anyhow if you want to communicate with the source to destination, first we need to provide the authentication, right? So authentication, maybe we will be having the different types of authentication. One, you can provide the something like username password. Username you can provide followed by the password, or you can provide username followed by the some key based authentication we have, right? Some PPK key is there, private key is there. By using this we can use. So there are different type of authentication method, but the most probably we are using two protocols. One is the telnet protocol, right? So another one is the SSH protocol, which is working on the port number 22 and 23, right? In this case, if you want to access the remote system, if you are using the protocol is telnet protocol for accessing the remote system, then we will see that how the hacker can able to access the total conversation by using the packet analyzer tool. Nothing but the any packet analyzer tool. It may be Wireshark or it may be whatever it may be, right? See that telnet is an application layer protocol that allows a network administrator to access and manage the remote devices, right? A network administrator can access devices by telnetting the IP address of the host name or remote device using this command, right? Suppose for example here we are going to create the virtual IP. Let it be this is that IP, right? Just we are going to perform the telnet this IP address. So instead of performing operation from here, so after telnetting we can perform operation from here, right? So for that, one requirement is that first we need to enable the password in the Cisco switch, right? That is the requirement. Once it is done, now what we are going to do is, right, if you think that in layer 2 we don't have any IP address mechanism, right? We have only MAC address mechanism, right? Fine. So here for example, if you want to access the required IP address, right? So for that, here we are not going to create the just what we are going to create is we are going to create the virtual IP address, right? So to access this machine we are going to create the virtual IP address, right? So for that, what is the command we need to use is VLAN1. By default virtual local area network is it. That is the next step we can discuss, VLAN1. So we are going to give some IP address, right? Once it is done, next we are going to configure the telnet, right? So after configuring the telnet, we can able to access from the my remote machine to the particular switch, right? So in order to demonstrate this one and to perform this telnet attacks, again we'll go back to the GNS3. We are going to use the Kali Linux. Then here in this time we will use the Wireshark network analyzer to see the entire traffic, right? If in case if remote is telnet protocol, then how you can see the all the information including password, everything. If you see at this time period of the time, this is the password, right? This only known by this user only, but somehow if you if you see this interface by using of the Wireshark, right, even though if you don't know password also, he can get the password, he can do whatever the configuration he can do. That we'll see practically. Once it is done, we'll see what is the mitigation technique, right, how SSH secure protocol will be used this in order to perform the mitigation operation, right. So for this demonstration, let me again go back to, right, so my again GNS3, click on file, open project. It will take some time. Fine, now it is open. So first we'll start the connection, right, just click on start. Fine, so here we required Kali Linux mission, right. First let me delete this one, I don't require. Let me take Kali Linux mission, right. So again go to connections, Ethernet 0, then G0x1 interface, right. If you want to see the ports, just click on show hide interface label, right. So this is my G0x1, G0x2, G0x2, right. Now we'll start this one, right, start this one. So our Kali Linux machine is booting, we'll wait for some time. Just click on the switch, then click on the console. Right, switch will be booting, it will take some time. And it is taking time, it is based on your operating system, how much RAM, how much memory you allocated, based on that we will be having. So meanwhile we'll do one more thing. For example, if you observe here, this is my Kali Linux machine, right. So from where I have installed, from my virtual machine, right. So how much RAM, how much things I allocated is that. If you see that, let me open this one. If you see that, for this one I have downloaded the operating system ISO file, then I have created the virtual machine, so it is taking around 2.3 GB. I have assigned here 2 core processor, right. So but see that if you are assigning 2.3 GB for Kali Linux machine itself, in my GNS3 you required some more Kali Linux machine, some Ubuntu, some Red Hat Linux, or some kind of tools or softwares you required, so you cannot able to give the 8 GB RAM, right. So in this case what we will do is, right, so we can download the images, right. If any guys knows, right, so we have the great site containerization technology hub.docker.com, right, hub.docker.com. So if you go inside, right, so if you want any operating system, suppose you want Linux operating system, just type Linux. So see that this is the Linux operating system. So if you just click on Ubuntu, whatever it may be, now see that what is the size of this Linux operating system, only 5 MB is the size. It means that we can download this image, right, into your GNS3 by consisting of only 5 MB size, right. It means that again we don't require to run the one more virtual machine, so directly we can import from the GNS3 through the Docker container platform, right. So see that it is a Ubuntu, right? Right, Ubuntu, right? So Ubuntu means what is the size? It is something around 24 MB. So how to download this install into your GNS3 means just copy this one, right? Now here we have the right. Just click on this one. Just click on new template. So just click on manually create, right? Manually create. Just click on next, right? So here what we are trying to add, Docker container, right? So just create new one. Obviously we are working on GNS3 VM, right? In the image you just give that what is the image name, right? Ubuntu, right? Click on next. Name you can give any name your wish, right? It is already used. In my case it is already downloaded. Adapters if you want you can give. Start command is required, so telnet I am using. Finish. Just click on apply and OK. Once it is done, see that here we have the Ubuntu, right? This Ubuntu we can use in our workspace. It's a great way that we can install. So in my case, if you see that I have already Ubuntu is installed, right? So I have already Ubuntu is installed, right? So if I see that if I connect workspace this one into my Ubuntu, it exactly works as the Ubuntu operating system. So if I want to show this one, just let me start this one first, right? Before going to perform the telnet attack, we will see some basics. So this is helpful, right? So just click on console. I think I have opened right, BNC I am using. In my case I should use telnet, so this won't work out, right? So it means that if you open this one or somewhere like this one, just click on start, right? So if it is already start means just console. This node must be started, right? Start and then console. See that who have I? See that this working exactly like, right? So if you want to create mkdir abc ls minus e, see that almost all it is working as a Ubuntu, but how much memory you have assigned is only 25-30 MB, right? It means that we can able to download any kind of this one. Suppose for example, say again, so if you want to perform almost a layer 2 attacks, we have the great tool Xenia, right? So this for this generally, right, if you want to run Xenia, we require Kali Linux mission. Inside of the Kali Linux mission we have the Xenia, right? So here what we don't require to install the Kali Linux mission again, right? Just use this Xenia tool, right? So software ettercap something is there, right? See that ettercap is one tool, great tool is there to perform the attack, right? So I don't know why it is coming Xenia, right? It is coming, right? So this framework is there, right? So almost you can able to perform. How to do this one? As explained earlier, just copy this one, right? So create new template, right? So then click on Docker, then add this one, so that instead of downloading again one more Kali Linux by spending 2.3 GB, allocating separate processor, allocating separate underlying hardware, directly you can import these images into your GNS3 workspace, so that you can able to perform all kind of attack operation in easy manner. You can download almost all things, right? In Docker Hub you will be having the thousands of the hundred thousands of the, right? So iOS images we will be having, that container we will be having. Just download that operating system, then run it, right? This is how you can able to download from the dockerhub.com, right? So let me go back to our main scenario, how to perform the remote connection using telnet, right? One more thing, how to perform the attacks on the telnet we will see, right? I think right, so let my switch is booted, right? Done, my switch is booted, right? So just I'm going to type the command enable, right? So going to configuration mode, configure terminal, right? So here I'm going to type the enable password Cisco. As we explained in the theory, we need to give the first enable password. Let it be Cisco in this my case. Now we need to type the virtual terminal, right? We need to perform the telnet connection, right? So if you don't know, right, just type the command show running configuration. If you see that, just click on down, right? If you click on down, see here you can see that, right? If you want to connect virtual terminal, so we have up to 15 lines at a time. We can connect 0 to 50, 16 connects. So we are going to configure exactly line bty, right? So what is the command we have to do is just go to configure terminal. So just I'm typing line bty 0 to 4. You can give 0 to 15 also, or 0 to 1 also, right? How many connection you want to establish based on that, right? 0 to 4, right? I'm going to give password something, whatever the password you want to give, Cisco. Then just I'm going to perform the login operation, then exit, right? So this is how we to install the telnet program, right? So now telnet program is completed. Now like go back to my Kali Linux machine. So this is my Kali Linux machine, right? Right, it is booted. Why it is not working, I don't know. Fine. Opening Kali Linux machine. So we'll see what is the IP configurations. Nothing is given, right? Right. So before that, here we need to give one more thing, right? So we need to give some virtual IP address, right? So for that, go to configuration mode, right? So interface, by default everything will be VLAN 1 only, right? So VLAN 1. So we'll give some virtual IP address to access remote connection 192.168.1.1 255.255.0 something we'll give, right? Then we will issue no shutdown command. By default it will be in shutdown mode. After issuing no shutdown means it will be enabled, right? So it will be line protocol will be change state to up, right? These three things we have to do. Then let me go back to my Kali Linux machine, right? Let me give if config, right? And Ethernet 0, interface is Ethernet 0, 192.168.1. and something we will give. And then net mask, subnet mask, right? Net mask is something 255.255.255.0, right? So just use it command IP config. Now this IP address we have, right? So now what is the remote machine IP address we have given in the switch? That is 1.1, right? Now we will perform the ping operation, whether we have the connection or not, right? So for that I'm just performing the ping command. So it is working great. Now we will use the command telnet 192.168.1.1. the switch IP address is the 1.1, right? So just I'm going to performing. So it is asking for the password, right? What is the password we gave? Cisco, right? The password is Cisco we gave, right? Now see that we are accessing the switch, right? So if you see show running configuration, I am inside of my Kali Linux machine. I can see everything, right? So for example, if you want to change the, right, so let me go to configuration mode. If you want to change the host name also, we can change. Let it be, if I'm giving S1, see that here in my Kali Linux machine I have given S1, right? The moment if you see here, it is also become S1, right? Now see that what is the limitation of this one is, right? So just I'm going to click on this one, right? I'm going to start the capture, right? Just click on OK. Right, so it is okay, right? Now what we will do is, right, just again go back to the Kali Linux machine. Right, we'll just exit. Right, just click on exit. And I don't know, it is not working. Fine, let me exit from my switch. Right, now what I'll do is again I'll issue the telnet command. So this time only my Kali Linux machine knows the password, no other guy knows my password. Right, now I have inserted in that interface, right, analyzer tool, right, network analyzer tool, nothing but Wi-Fi. We'll see that what is happening. 192.168.1.1. This password only knows by me, right? So no other guy knows. Right, now see that now we are capturing on that interface. Right, now the moment if you click on the Kali Linux, if you click on the network analyzer, just filter any TCP packet, just click on TCP here. Right, so right, just click on follow, then click on TCP stream. Right, fine. So here it is only, see, so whatever we are typing, everything is capturing. Now we'll come back to the latest one, follow TCP stream. Right, do one thing, we'll go back to the first. Right, so it means that what is happening here is that, right, so if you click on follow TCP stream means you can read the entire information, right, including password, whatever the data we are typing, everything we see. For example, suppose say, right, let me go back to my Kali Linux machine again. Right, so here I'm going to type something, Cisco is, I'm giving the password. Right, so let it be again. Right, enable password is Cisco. Right, show running configuration, I'm typing this command. I don't know why these commands are working. Fine, what we'll do is we'll go to the Kali Linux, Wireshark. Right, so we'll see that whether we can able to capture the packets or not. Right, so just click on this one, follow TCP stream. So here we can see that entire information. Right, see, this is what happening. So let me open TCP only. Right, just open any packets. Latest one is, I think, better one. I think, I don't know whether I'm opening new one or open one. See, fine, we came to picture. Right, so what is the password we enter? Cisco. See, we got this password. Right, if you know this password, you can see anything. Right, so see that I have entered password Cisco. Right, I have typed enable command, whatever I have done, everything in the plain transaction. Right, so this is how we can hack the, right, so entire transaction using this right tool. Right, so for that what I'm going to do is, for that what is the mitigation technique we need to use is, right, the mitigation technique we need to implement the, right, SSH authentication mechanism. Right, so for that again I'm going back to the switch. Right, so just let me click on the switch. Right, so this is the switch console. Right, exit. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the SSH operation. Right, so for that first we'll create some local domain, IP domain name, something I'm giving cisco.com. First we are going to create the database. Right, so generally we used to have the authentication server, AAA server we need to store. So on that server we need to give the username, password, that will hold that values. Whenever user comes with the database, that AAA server will check the database. If it is matches, then what will be happen means, then it will be authentication will be allowed. Right, so in my case I'm not going to install authentication server, so for that I'm creating the local server. Right, so for that what I'm giving is, I'm just giving local base username, something Cisco I'm giving, so password I'm giving, Cisco is giving. Right, so if you want from this scenario you have to understand is, telnet based authentication means everything you can see in the plain text format. The moment if you are installing the SSH authentication mechanism, everything you can see in the encrypted format. Right, username Cisco, then passcode Cisco. Right, so now I'm going to configure. right, let me give, right, now we need to generate the SSH key generation, right? So SSH key, fine, SSH key. Fine, before that what we will do is we will create the database is completed, right? So now we can create the line VTY 0 to 4, right? So transport input SSH, right, just a second. So we are transporting input method to SSH, right? So what the database we have used, we need to use the local database we need to use. Once it is done, right, so generate, I don't know why it is working. The command is, right, so crypto key generate, we are going to generate the RS algorithm. So just we are giving 1024, right, key is generated. Now SSH is configured. Now what we will do is, right, so here we will start the start capture on this interface. Now we'll go back to Kali Linux machine, right? So what is the interface? Now we need to give SSH, right, minus login. So what is the username? Cisco. What is the IP address? 192.168.1.run, right? So it is asking for S, give it as S. So what is the password we give? Cisco, right? So enable, again what is the password we give? Cisco, right? Right, in my case I wrote wrong. So see that now what we will do is, so I have accessor from my Kali Linux machine, right? Now what we will do is, we'll open the, see, right, now what we will do is, I will just check the TCP stream, right? Now if you open any packet, right, follow TCP stream, now see that everything will be in terms of the encrypted format, right? So here from this what you have to understand is, first we have performed the telnet attack. So the mitigation technique is to implement the SSH based authentication mechanism, right? So like this we can perform any kind of layer 2 attacks, right? So for example, see, there are one great tool if you want to perform the, right, so layer 2 attack. Let me open my Kali Linux machine, right? So let me just go back to here. Exit, right? So just I'm using Yersinia minus capital G. If you just press the help command, you will see that, right? So minus G means we can use the graphical mode, right? Yersinia minus G. Now see that this tool is being opening, right? See that we can perform the all mode, all, right? So we can perform DHCP, CDP, that 802.1q trunking protocol, dynamic trunking protocol, spanning tree protocol, VTP, Yersinia log. So every, right? So for example, if you click on DTP, you just click on launch attack, we can perform the VLAN attack. Everything we can perform by using this tool, right? So this is how we can perform the basic L2 attacks. So we can perform the mitigation technique, right? So in case if you are using the VLAN attack, the great tool is Yersinia. Use this tool, right, so that you can able to find out how to mitigate the VLAN attack, right? So thank you. So in real time, if you want to implement the project, what you have to do is, so in my case, for explaining each components, I have taken the simple scenarios, right? So we need to design some complex circuit where consisting of multiple switches, multiple routers, right? Some VLAN should be there, some static routing, something should be there. So like that you create your campus area network, real-time industry network. So on that network you perform these type of attacks, then you just find the solution how to mitigate this attack, so that we can, so this is not only limited to perform the something called, so far what we have done, DHCP we have done, right? Then telnet attack we have performed, then we found the mitigation solution, then finally we have performed what attack we have performed, right? MAC address flooding attack we have performed, right? So like we have ARP poisoning is there, then VLAN attack is there, spanning tree protocol attack is there. Like that you perform, then you perform the mitigation solely, so that you can use this as your major or mini project, right? But for that we need to build the first network such that we need to implement all these kind of attack, right? I hope this demonstration will helpful for using these tools, right? If you are working for the cyber security, the better option is that you can use the GNS3, or if you are preparing for something like CCNA, CCNP exams, the great tool you can use the Cisco Packet Tracer Simulator, right? So in my Cisco Packet Tracer Simulator, it is just only 200 MB, but here in case GNS3, the minimum 8 GB RAM is required, right? So even I have assigned the 8 GB RAM, right? So it might be something slow, right? Because I have installed the VMware workstation, then GNS3 VM, Kali Linux, so I have imported the real Cisco router switches, right? So that's why it is doing, right? If you want to work with the real time, then go for the GNS3, or if you want to prepare for the exam purpose like CCNA, CCNP, you use the Packet Tracer Simulator, right? So thank you very much.